What's up, everybody? My name's Josh, and I'm gonna make this video about plants. I love plants. I freaking love plants. They are like just a really big part of my life. I've always been a tree hugger, if you will, since I was young, and I've always had this marvel and respect for nature. And I guess this video is to, in a way, dispute the theory that plants are put here for our benefit. Really, the video itself is not about that, but my ultimate conclusion was that after all the research I've done on plants, we were put here for plants. How about that? I wrote down a few notes because I don't want to lose sight of the meaning behind this video and the reason, but it's funny to think that, plants appear to be consumable. They appear to be something that's here for us to use, and that's true, but it's not. It's a two-way street. The big difference that I've found is this. If plants disappeared tomorrow, every animal on Earth would die. If every animal on Earth died tomorrow, plants would make it through. And that's one of the things that really in the big picture shows us that plants are superior to people. Now, I believe plants have consciousness. I believe that plants have a form of communication that's beyond anything we can understand. In fact, recent studies they've found, because they've been studying plants to see how they communicate. Now, we know that they use mycelial networks underground, which is mushrooms, if you will, mycelial mats. And plants can sense that it's in danger and send signals through the mushrooms. Now, this is a symbiotic relationship. They share. And all of the plants in the plant kingdom share. In fact, when we've always been told that plants will crowd each other out, the truth is they accommodate each other. They know their neighbors and they're aware of their neighbors. And we know that they communicate through releasing chemicals. Okay, now, there was one recent event where a bunch of animals died. They were some sort of a deer. I can't remember where, some country in Africa. And there were all these different preserves, game preserves for them. And on some of the preserves, the animals were dying. And on some of them, they weren't. They couldn't figure it out. It was the strangest thing. The only thing that they had in common was that the ones where they died were overpopulated. So they tested the acacia bushes there and found that the acacia bushes had produced an enzyme which slows down the digestive process of animals. The plants had killed the animals because the animals were killing the plants. And this has major implications. It's nothing new. They've been doing studies on this for a long time and found that, yes, plants, certain tobacco plants, when they become there's a beetle that particularly likes the tobacco plants, and they'll lay their eggs on the leaf. Well, when these beetles start to munch on the leaves, tobacco plants release a chemical scent that attracts a moth, which comes and eats the beetles, the beetle larvae. This shows an intelligence beyond anything that I think we've given it credit for, and I thank science now for finally bringing these things to light and finally proving that plants are intelligent in their own way. And though we can't comprehend what type of consciousness they may have, they're aware of us. Now, plants can sense touch. Plants can sense, there's a plant called a sensitive, which if you touch it, the leaves fold up. But if you blow on it, nothing happens. They're aware of the chemical charge, the electrical charge. They know when someone is within their perimeter. We won't even get into carnivorous plants, which are, in my eyes, maybe not a transition between plant and animal, but a combination of the two. Now, the only difference between plants and animals is that we don't think plants have brains and that they are stuck in the ground. There are some plants that, first off, scientists now believe that the brain of the plant is in the ground. The root system is the brain of the plant. Now, as a gardener and a grower for years, when I was younger, I remember thinking, well, I can put one cannabis plant in this pot, and I can put two in this one. And as long as I fertilize them fine, they'll all be the same size. Now, wouldn't that make sense? If a plant was relying on nothing but nutrients, that would make sense. But they never did. Those two plants in the same pot were always half the size. It didn't matter how well I took care of them, how many nutrients I gave them. plants are aware of each other and their root space. Now, they do share chemical signals and whatnot. Now, here's the amazing thing. They believe now, they isolated seeds and grew these pepper plants next to these basil, and found that even when they isolated them from all communication and all other signals, they were still aware of their neighbor. And what they believe now is that they create what they're calling nanoscale vibrations in the soil. So seeds are communicating with plants. Plants are communicating with seeds. Plants are aware of the seeds that are around them. They can decide who are we going to let germinate? How big are we going to let them get? This is an intelligence that's so incomprehensible. It just dumbfounds me when people say that plants are here for our benefit. I can understand that way of thinking. Like the old biblical, God put all plants or seed-bearing plants and herbs for us to use. But I'm starting to think that maybe we are, how do I put this? We're nothing more than an experience of the plant kingdom in itself. When they decoded the human genome, I believe there was something like 26,000 genes, or 26,000 genes in DNA. Then after that, they decoded the rice genome, and there was over 50,000. So rice is twice as evolved as we are. What does that mean? Does that mean that maybe it just, it doesn't mean it's superior, that we're superior? It took a different path. The plant kingdom is a completely different path. It's not better or worse, obviously. It's all part of this picture. It's all part of the one, the universe, the beauty of it all. This earth, Gaia, communicates. Plants communicate with one another. We communicate with plants. Plants are aware of us. This is why, I made a video earlier about using Miracle-Gro on plants. And I was thinking about this. Maybe it's not necessarily that organic is better, it's just that people who grow organically have more of a passion for their plants, and therefore that shows in the fruits of their labor. It's a possibility because I absolutely adore my plants, no matter what fertilizer I use or what type of methods I use. I talk to them and I feel them and I say, thank you for growing, and I ask them to get big and strong. And I've been doing it for years. I play classical music for my plants. And I saw the other day, I saw this show where a guy was actually cranking classical music through loudspeakers through his grape orchard. I was like, wow, I didn't know people were that extreme on it, but hey, if I've set my sound system up in my grow area, I guess, that's, it shows that I believe it, that I really believe that it has an effect. And I don't know how much of it is intention of the actual person. But I know that you have to have intention in order to have plants respond to you. So when we give plants no credit and just say they're dumb, they're just there. So let's see if there's anything I wrote down that I didn't cover. Oh yeah, we were talking, I read this article about pH levels and pH buffers, and people use them to try to adjust the pH in the soil and in their nutrient solution, and how they found that the plant's internal pH is always different. I believe there's a meter you can get for that, but is it a Brix meter? No, that's a light meter. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but it detects the internal pH of the plant as opposed to the pH in the soil, because they're going to be different. And as well, the pH around the root tips is always lower. They produce this ionization with the lower pH, which allows more of these bacteria and microbes to, flourish and live, which the root system needs. That's why I'm a fan of growing in soil, so they can create these systems. Then there's plants that hold the cure for the ailment they cause. One of the most common ones is stinging nettles. What's the cure for stinging nettles? You rub on the plant itself. So, if you think about the way that GMOs have gone, and how you think about that, how the plants, you think about those animals in Africa, how they become overcrowded and abusing the plants, and how the plants responded by defending themselves. Perhaps this is what's happening to us with our food. Perhaps it's not the GMOs themselves. Perhaps it's not the industry. Maybe it's not even the processing or anything like that. Maybe it's just that the food has lost respect for us. And And it's fighting us off, you know? Gaia is using her diseases to, just like the tobacco plant calls them off. This moth may be our demise. Yeah, then there's a dancing plant, which you play music for and it dances. That's amazing. There's the Romanesco broccoli, which is a perfect Fibonacci spiral, but they're Fibonacci spirals within spirals. It's amazing. Just look it up if you get a chance. You can see it's Romanesco broccoli. And the only thing left that I guess I have to cover, which I haven't mentioned, is psychoactive plants. And I don't want to get too deep into that because I could go on forever, but my thought on this is that psychoactive plants, which allow us to see the world in a bigger picture. I've always thought that maybe mushrooms speak to us. Psilocybin is the chemical that perhaps is the connection. DMT, on the other hand, is an endogenous chemical within the body. It's produced, they believe, by the pineal gland. It's pretty much been proven now, but they've only really found it in rats because it only is a living organism, so you'd have to do it on a living human. But dimethyltryptamine, or DMT, I believe, may be our connection to that realm. One time when I took a very large dose, as I was going down the tunnel and as I was fading out of reality, I was gone. As I was fading out, the weeds in my yard started talking to me, and it was different than any psychedelic. It was different feeling. I felt like I had entered this kingdom of plants. And I really started to think, are these plants communicating with us? Maybe it's not that the plant allows us to see things as they are, but maybe the plant literally has a voice, a chemical voice that it uses to speak through our minds. People who take psychedelics, who are psychonauts, tend to see the world differently. And I think that a lot can be learned from psychedelics and psychoactive plants. There are allies, and that's why I'm so fascinated with plants. And that's why I plan to put a lot of study and research into plants in my future, and maybe make it even a line of work if I can, because they're all around us. It's part of our world. It's everything. Everything is plants. Without plants, we're nothing. So maybe God didn't put the plants and herbs here for us to use. Maybe God put us here for the plants and herbs to use. The decomposing body makes damn good fertilizer. Peace out.